Hey class, sorry I couldn't be there in person. I will be back on Monday, but hopefully these videos that you'll watch today and tomorrow will provide you with enough information to do the notes for today and the Delta Math, okay? We just finished our test, so we're starting a new unit today. This unit is on sequences. Today we're just going to be focused on notation in a sequence and finding a specific term in a sequence. Okay, so we should first start by saying what is a sequence. A sequence is like a list of numbers, right? It could just be any numbers in a sequence. We're specifically going to talk about sequences that have patterns in them, but a sequence is just like a list of numbers, okay? So let's take a look at this specific sequence. I'm not sure why it says back, but we're looking at it for the first time. So let's look at this sequence, okay? This sequence is 1, 4, 7, 10, and then it would keep going, all right? So looking at this sequence, there is a pattern happening, right? If I start at 1 and I'm going to 4, then I'm adding 3. Then if I'm starting at 4 and I'm going to 7, again, I add 3. And then if I start at 7 and go to 10, I add 3. Okay, so in this sequence, there's a pattern of me adding 3 every time, okay? If I were trying to find the next term here, then how I would do that is that to find the new term, the next term, you take the term you had before and you add 3 to it. Okay, so in this scenario, if I were finding my new term, I would need my before term, which was 10, and I would add 3 to it, which would give me 13 as my next term. And then I could keep going, right? Okay, so this is how we would express finding our new term in terms of words, okay? But we're going to talk about how to do this without words using notation, math notation, okay? So we're going to use symbols to represent this. So instead of saying new term, we're going to use the notation a sub n, okay? So a sub n will always be your new term, okay? We use the letter A when we're talking about sequences and the little n to help us stay organized about what term we're talking about, okay? So a sub n will mean new term. Then, instead of saying before, like we did up here, we're going to use the notation a sub n minus 1, okay? A sub n minus 1 represents the term right before the new term, okay? Now, if you think about this, if my new term is a sub n, the term right before that would be like n minus 1, right? The one right before that would be just take away 13. The term right before that is 10. You just go back one. So that's why we call it a sub n minus 1. So again, a sub n is new term, and a sub n minus 1 is the before term, okay? So for this sequence up above, we could use the equation a sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1 plus 3. So it's just this exact same thing, but we use the math notation instead of words, okay? Then, if I have something that, like an A, that doesn't have an N on it, like a sub 1, what do you think a sub 1 means? Okay. Well, if a sub n means the new term, okay, then more specifically, a sub 1 is a term. It is the first term, okay? So a sub 1 is the first term. Then, if I have something that says a sub 2, like I do down here, that's the second term. Okay, a sub 3 would mean this is the third term. So hopefully you're starting to see a pattern here. A sub 4 would mean that's the fourth term. Oops. Okay. Now let's look at another sequence. Okay, here's my sequence. 73, 81, 89, 97. I'm looking for a pattern. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, how did I go from 73 to 81? Well, I added 8. And let's just make sure that is the pattern. From 81 to 89 is also plus 8. And same thing from 89 to 97. So I'm pretty confident that my pattern is to add 8 here. Okay? So looking at the questions over here, what is a sub 4? Well, here's my first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. Okay? So my fourth term is 97. The next question, what is a sub 5? Okay, well, it doesn't tell me what a sub 5 is, but I could find that pretty easily by taking my fourth term, 97, and just adding 8 to it. So 97 plus 8 is 105. That is my fifth term. Okay? And then for the sixth term, we're going to do the same thing. 105 plus 8. That'll give me my sixth term, which is 113. Okay? Now for today, we're not going to worry about writing the equation. That will be tomorrow's problem. Right? So don't worry about doing that one. We're going to jump down to example 2. Okay, this time I'm not given a sequence, I'm given an equation. Okay? I need to find, or let's just go through our answers here. So a sub 1 is 4, and the equation, a sub n, is 5 times the before term. Okay, so new term is 5 times the before term. Okay, then I need to eventually find the value of a5. Okay, so what does a1 represent? So a1 represents the first term, right? We talked about that already. Represents the first term. Okay, what does a sub n represent? Or, excuse me, a sub n minus 1 represent? Well, we talked about that as well. It represents the before term. Okay, now it wants us to rewrite this equation using words, okay? So a sub n, we said, is the new term. Okay, so the new term is equal to 5 times the before term. Okay, so I just took the equation and I put it into words. What does a sub 5 mean? Well, that means the fifth term. And now I need to find the fifth term. Okay, so how I'm going to do this is I need to find all of the terms up until 5, okay? Starting with a sub 1. A sub 1 is equal to 4, right? It says it right there. So I found a sub 1. Now let's find a sub 2. A sub 2 is equal to the before term times 5. So 5 times the before term. My before term was 4. So 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So a sub 2 is 20. Now let's find a sub 3. A sub 3 equals 5 times the before term. So 5 times the before term, which was 20. 5 times 20, which is 100. So 100 is a sub 3. Now let's find a sub 4. A sub 4 is 5 times the before term. So 5 times the before term, which is 100. So a sub 4 is 500. Okay, now we're finally ready to do a sub 5. A sub 5 is 5 times the before term. So 5 times 500, which is 2,500. That is A5, okay? So see, to find the fifth term, we need to find all of the previous terms as well, okay? Because we're constantly using that before term. All right. Example 3. If a sub 1 is 2 and a sub n is the before term plus 2, then find the value of a sub 5. So what does a sub n minus 1 represent? It represents the before term. Okay, now rewrite the equation in terms of words. Well, remember, this was the new term, which is equal to the before term plus 2. So now I have it in terms of words. So now let's find a sub 5, okay? So I'm going to start at a sub 1. A sub 1 is 2. Tells me that right here. Now let's find a sub 2. A sub 2 is the before term plus 2. So the before term, which was 2, plus 2. So a sub 2 is 4. Now let's find a sub 3. A sub 3 is the before term, which was 4, plus 2. So a sub 3 is 6. Now let's find a sub 4. A sub 4 is the before term, which was 6, plus 2. So a sub 4 is 8. And now finally we can find a sub 5. A sub 5 is the before term, which is 8, plus 2. So a sub 5 is 10. All right? All right. So on the check your understanding, we can go through this pretty quickly. So the first one, what is a sub 4? Well, I've got the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So a sub 4 is 40. Now I need to find the next term, a sub 5. Well, let's find the pattern here. How did I go from 19 to 26? Well, I added 7. And then likewise, you add 7. So my pattern is add 7. So if I'm trying to find the next term after 40, then it would be 47. Then I'm trying to find a sub 6. So if I'm trying to find the next term after 47, I'll add 7 to 47. 47 plus 7 is 54. Okay, and like I said, we're not worrying about equations today, so we don't have to do D. And the last question on the check your understanding. A sub 1 is 5, and here's my equation. I take the before term and minus 4. That gives me my new term. Okay, I need to find the value of a sub 5. All right, so I start at a sub 1. A sub 1 is 5. It says that right here. Perfect. Now let's find a sub 2. A sub 2 is the before term minus 4. So 5 minus 4, which is 1. So a sub 2 is 1. A sub 3 is the before term, 1 minus 4. So a sub 3 is negative 3. A sub 4. A sub 4 is the before term, so negative 3 minus 4. So a sub 4 is negative 7. And finally, a sub 5, it's the before term, so negative 7 minus 4, which is negative 11. So negative 11 is a sub 5. All right, so now that we're done with notes, you're going to go on to Delta Math, and you are going to practice finding the whatever term. It might be the 4th term, 5th term, I don't know. But you're going to go on and you're just doing this process. You're going to start with a sub 1, and you're going to go until you find the term you need. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to email me or hold on to them, and I'll answer them next week.